It's Chris Watkin back again with Matt Giggs, Estate Agent Supremo. Matt, you said to me before we switched the camera on, sometimes it's a good idea to give up market share in estate agency. What are you on? Talk to me.
Well, give up or not chase it. It's probably a mixture of the two. When I started gigs, it wasn't my main focus. It really wasn't 10 years ago. My main focus was to deliver a particular service for people in our community, in our area. And we did that and just happened to accelerate market share at the same time. But when you get market share, the danger is you become focused on that.
Of course you do.
And it becomes an external thing that you can't necessarily control. Yeah, you can work out the numbers and you can drill down to the actions and so on and so forth, but it becomes a measurable thing that actually, unless that's something that you're truly deeply passionate about and that's all that matters, for me, I've had to come back on that a little bit.
Why, before we answer the question, why do you think agents, and let's be honest, my thoughts on Rightmove pie charts are very well known.
Yeah.
But why do estate agents feel the need to publish market share graphs of their market share on listings?
Validation, external validation. For me, it's a really interesting one, and I've been there. We used to put our pie charts everywhere. I mean, there weren't many addresses in St Neots that wouldn't have seen how many houses we sold. But now it doesn't matter. And it doesn't matter because there's things that we need to get right ahead of that. Whether it's the way we communicate, whether it's the way we help more customers sell their properties for the best price, whatever it is, whether we just need to have the right people in the business to deliver the service that we want to deliver. For me, it's ego, it's a mixture of all sorts of pride and validation. It's like winning awards, right? It's the same as collecting an award at the Esters. We've done that and we stopped entering the Esters a couple of years ago. Why? Because we need to get more things right before we start collecting awards. I'd rather awards come to us without actually having to pay for the entry. And that's not taking the piss out of any of these awards ceremonies. I think they're all wonderful and they will give everybody what they need, that momentary piece of gratification.
Yeah, it's good.
And there's nothing wrong with that. And I've been there, but it's not how I want to grow our businesses.
So you're saying what probably when you say giving up on market share, we're actually talking about focusing on the stuff that really matters, which is looking after the customer and giving an exceptional service.
Yeah. I mean, look, let's be honest. If you can have all of it, which is what someone's going to say when they listen to this, I would agree with you, right? Because I'm an achiever. I would love to have X amount market share. I'd love to make sure that we're getting 5-star service right the way across the journey. But we're not. I'd be lying if I said we're not. There's things that we can do to improve. By the way, they're much better than they were 2 or 3 years ago, but there's different parts of the whole journey that you keep seeing slip and then advance and then you improve and then you don't.
It's like spinning plates.
Massively. But if you keep drilling down on that and everyone's focused on this market share, the trouble is, because they're so focused on the numbers, that experience becomes about transaction. And if you're a customer, you feel the difference between a transaction and a relationship. Our freaking business wasn't started because of market share. It was started because of relationships. It was started because we want to make an impact and make a difference.
So focus on the process, not the outcome.
100% on the process. And the outcome should level itself out or become what your process dictates.
It's not sexy though, is it? Focusing on that.
I find it sexier now.
How? What have you done to change your mindset to be turned on by process?
To remind myself why I started in the first place. You know, getting to £1 million turnover. When I'd done some events 5 or 6 years ago, and I remember the guy who was doing my social media at the time was like, "Yeah, this is what people want to see," and it was about £1 million turnover. And there was times when I was seeing these ads going out there on Facebook, and I'm thinking, "Oh, that's not important to me."
More importantly, is it important?
Nor's my title, if I'm honest.
Was it important to the person viewing it?
But if that person viewing it's attracted to turnover and money, then I'm not the right person to work with them. Because actually, if it's about understanding your customers' needs and delivering the best outcome for your customers along the way, that's where I started 26 years ago, and that's where I am today. You just need to go through the other bits to get back to where you are.
And now you've focused on the process, would you say you're happier as an estate agent?
I'm way happier. Don't get me wrong, I still have that, if for 7, 10, 20 days or a month, it's not quite as good as you'd want it to be. But I hardly ever look. If I'm honest, I very rarely look at market share these days, and that is because if I get myself into looking at the wrong things, like watching the news, right? Ukraine, Russia, flipping heck. I mean, there's no human being that can't be cut up by that. But I was watching it like every day, every night, and I've had to turn it off. It's not because I don't care. It's because I care too much about that stuff. I can't do anything about it. Now, what we can do is raise some money in the group, put donations out there, and help in other ways.
Control the
controllables. And actually, the market share, whilst it's a nice thing, it's not what makes me feel really happy and fulfilled. What makes me feel happy and fulfilled is hearing a customer say to me in the shop, I've worked with your guys, they were brilliant. And that is still the reason why I started Giggs & Co.
Thank you for your time today, Matt. Chris Watkin, joined again by Matt Giggs, Estate Agency Supremo. Matt, estate agency is a vocation, not a job. What do you mean by that?
Right, well, estate agency, if you have a look at 90% of the recruitment adverts out there, they talk about the title, they talk about the salary, they talk about all of the benefits. Yet for me, I only want to hire people that want to help people. And if you want to help people, estate agency is a great career. I've had no end of people over the years message me, I want to come and work in a estate agency. Why? Because I love property.
You mean they watch Homes Under the Hammer?
Well, they love property. You know, I love property. I love go and be a surveyor. Don't be an estate agent. Estate agent, you go through the freaking stress of managing people's lives. Yeah. You are in the cold face of people's lives. You are at the end of blame. You're the roller coaster. Oh. If you aren't prepared to come in and work with the emotions of the public,
and it is huge emotion.
It's massively emotion, which is why you've got to work on yourself. We won't go into that right now, but for me, you've got to care about people. You've got to care about the way you look after people. You've got to care about understanding people. And by the way, one of the things that pisses me off is when people used to talk about clients that are high maintenance and so on and so forth. They don't know where they've been to get to where they are. So the first thing is, if you think about someone who's stressed, it's more often not directed at you in our industry. Very, very, very rarely. So the thing that we've got to be in a estate agency is we've got to really care and be really understanding and really make sure that we're trying to help somebody to achieve their outcome and goals. If that isn't something that motivates you, you're going to be a transactional estate agent, which means you will move from here to here to here to here to here to find the best deal for you. Now that's fine as well. And there should be a mixture of the two. In our culture, for me, it's about great agents know that estate agency is a vocation. They're going to be in it for years. They're passionate about it.
And when you say vocation, you mean like a way of life?
It's a way of life. You live and breathe it.
Because I must admit, I've been out of it now for a few years, and I miss it like hell.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about it.
Yeah, I'm as close as I could be.
Yeah.
I mean, I did say to the wife, during lockdown, I said, I could quite fancy starting one up. And she said, I'd get the divorce papers ready.
Yeah. Well, it's so hard. I saw Tony Ruby the other day, and we had a quick chat, because he messaged me a few years ago, and I'm so pleased to see what he's gone and done in the marketplace that we're probably in around this area. And but it's so hard. It's so hard to get it right all the time. Estate agency done really, really well is really, really difficult, because you are challenged by your customers, by your teams. It's a people industry. But if you love people and you understand the highs and the lows, and you enjoy helping people to get through those lows back to the high, whichever high they're aiming for, then estate agency is a great career to be in. I mean, I had left school with a B and a C and nothing else. And I failed at football, came out of that, and I was working in several jobs for 6 or 7 months. My mum told me there was a job down the road in an estate agency. I've never looked back, because from the moment I started to where I am now, it was always about really trying to help that person that I'm with. And that is what great estate agents do.
Thank you, Matt.